Good morning, everyone. I'm much better. I'm in Ukraine, right? I'm not in Norway. You're supposed to be cheerful and early up in the morning and everything. No? It's early in the morning and it's a good day. It's going to be a good day. So, first question. How many of you were here last year or the year before that listening to me? Oh, nice to see you again. So this is going to be the most boring talk ever for you. GDPR is not funny, and I've been thinking about this for like weeks and months in preparations. How can I make GDPR funny? And it's not. So I have to tell some jokes instead. Now, my name is Thorsheim. I live and work in Norway, and just recently, actually on August 1st, I started working as the head of security for Nordic Choice Hotels, which has their main office in Oslo, in Norway. We are approximately 13,000 employees. We have 190 hotels in 6 different countries: Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Lithuania, and Estonia. And I'm already like up here in GDPR work, and I'm going to explain to you GDPR. So in my opinion, this is the most important talk of entire QA Fest, especially if you're doing any kind of work with any kind of organization in the European Union. To start off, I mean, if you listened to me last year or the year before that, maybe you remember me talking about the Ashley Madison case. Ashley Madison is, and they still exist today, is a dating site, and they had a slogan saying, "Life is short, have an affair." I don't need to translate that into Ukrainian or Russian, I guess. And they were threatened by hackers because they got hacked. And the hackers said that if you don't stop running this service with 37.5 million users worldwide, we are going to leak the entire user database on the internet, including all the pictures. And they said that you have to stop running your service within a month from, from when we hacked you. Stay here. I like to run around. I'm kind of like, hey, I'm running away. Okay, I will stay here. I will try to stay here for a little while. So the point is, they put out this message, and the company who owned Ashley Madison in Canada, they said, no way. I mean, if you have 37 million users, you don't just stop doing business in a month. It's impossible. It's not something anyone would like to do. But the hackers put out information about one person, one user of the service every day, just to prove that, yes, we have actually hacked you. Here's the person's name, address, email address, sexual preferences and interests, and credit card details, so you can look him up or her up. One person every day as a threat, as a warning. If you don't shut down, we'll put out everything. And they did. After 1 month, they released the entire user database. Anyone could search the data. You could find friends, colleagues, families, people around the world. I saw people making, online interactive maps in your browser where you could just click on any country, any city, anywhere in the world and see how many people in that area were members of Ashley Madison. Because when you signed up, they also logged your IP address and mapped that into geo IP. So, a geographical representation on where are you right now when you sign up. All that was stored into the database. Pretty fascinating. So GDPR will become law in all of the European Union on May 25th next year. It is a set of rules about the privacy of information about you. And this will replace lots of individual laws in every EU country. And even though I live in Norway, which is actually outside the European Union, we will also adopt and take into law the entire GDPR. Now, some countries are allowed to add specific extras to the law, and they can also give certain exceptions from the GDPR. But as far as I know, most countries in the EU, they will take the entire GDPR and put it into law without any changes at all, which is also what we are going to do in Norway. And the interesting thing, why am I talking about this in Ukraine? You are not a member of the European Union, at least not yet. Well, GDPR applies to any company, any organization that are doing business with companies in the European Union and handling any kind of personal information. You could actually say that if you have a web server for your company in Ukraine, and you allow me to make an account because I'm going to buy flowers from Ukraine, and I have to register to make an account. If you do that and nothing else, the only thing you need from me is my shipping details and my credit card information as an example, you have to be GDPR compliant. Otherwise, the governments of all the countries in the European Union can tell you that you are not allowed to do business with the European Union. So it's a pretty tough law coming into effect. And that's why I'm here. That's why I wanted to talk to you about this. And GDPR also, for the kind of work that you do, can be, this is not going to be a problem for you, so to speak. This is not like, more security. This can be a very good business opportunity for you. If you can tell companies and organizations in the EU, am I being difficult now? Okay. Okay, so I have to stand back here and be take pictures. Only for 2 minutes. Then I will start jumping around again. Yeah. So the point is, I hate this part. Take the pictures. So GDPR, again, applies to pretty much any kind of business doing business inside the European Union, and also if you are outside and you have to deal with European people in EU. Now, talking about this, GDPR, there's a set of legal rights that you have. You are the data subject. You are the person that we will be collecting information about. Now, I'm the security manager for a very large hotel chain, so if you ever come to Norway or Sweden and Denmark, please stay in our hotels. Of course, I have to say that because of my boss. But if you are going to stay in my hotel or one of my hotels, what kind of information do I need in order to provide you with the best possible experience? Because we want you to be very, very happy when you stay with us. Do you want extra soft pillows? Do you want egg and bacon for breakfast? Or do you want breakfast at like noon? Do you want a gym in the basement that you can use? Do you want free Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi? All kinds of information that we would like to ask you about so we can provide those services for you. The thing is, before I can provide you with a room, before I can provide you with free Wi-Fi and so on, I have to ask you these questions. And according to the GDPR, I have a mandatory need to ask you for your permission to collect this information. And I need to ask you your permission. Is it okay for you that I will store in my database your name, your address, and you want high-speed Wi-Fi at a hotel? And not only do I have to ask permission for this, it has to be clear consent, which is like, they are using two expressions in GDPR. There's privacy by design and privacy by default. I will get back to that. I also need, as a hotel chain, I also need to enable you to easily access information that we have stored about you. So if you were a guest like 2 years ago, You can, and this is something you can actually do today, you can call us or email us or visit us and say, I want to know what kind of information you have stored about me. And our custom database is big. We have lots of people in our database. Lots and lots and lots, millions of people from all around the world. And all of them can, if they want to, they can call us, email us, or visit us and say, tell me what kind of information you have about me. Now, if one person do that, it's easy to handle. If 10 people do it, 100 people, we can manage. What would happen if 1 million people try to call us and say, hey, tell me what kind of information you have about us? I don't think that is going to happen, but they are all legally allowed to do so. That could be a massive problem for us. And if you provide any kind of information to people in the EU, you are facing the exact same question. They can call you and say, tell me what kind of information you have stored about me. So we need, where I work, we need to automate this process. I need a web portal, I need some kind of calling system or something else where people can contact us and say, give me my information, and we have an automated system that will provide all this information for you automatically. When was the last time you stayed with us? In which hotel? How much money did you pay? Did you use the gym? Did you go and have breakfast? Did you use the Wi-Fi network? If we are logging which websites you visited, you know, we have to give you that log as well. That's going to be interesting, of course, and so on. And not only are you allowed to see the information that we have stored about you, you also have the right to rectification, to erasure, and to be forgotten. Meaning, if I have written a comment in our, we have a plain text field, free text, where you can, our receptionists, they can type in whatever they want in that one particular text field. And what do? Well, Anna here on the first row, she visited us, and I will type into the free text field, really, really nice girl from Ukraine, gets up early in the morning, has breakfast, and smiles at everyone. And then she can call us in a year or 2 or 3 and ask, what do you have stored about information about me? And I will say, well, this is what we have. Pretty young girl from Ukraine smiling all the time and having breakfast early in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. And you can say, no way, that wasn't me. That is so wrong. I'm not smiling at all. I'm bored and tired in the morning. And she can say that you will either have to change that text and to delete it. And you can even say that I want you to delete all information about me, period. And as long as there is no law telling us that we have to keep the information about you, like, bookkeeping, as an example, is one of the laws. If we have financial records saying that you paid money to stay with us, we have to keep that information in Norway for up to 10 years. But all other information, like, what you had for breakfast, as an example, is not mandatory for us by any law to keep. So if you say, delete that information, we have to delete it. And there's also something else, which is in the term of profiling. And that will be information that we can use to develop our services. Like, well, we have, in our customer database, we have something called the Nordic Choice Club. It's a membership club where you can get, special discounts and, all kinds of stuff. And we, of course, we will put you on an email list and send you new offers, like once a month, once a week, and so on. And profiling is when we analyze the database that we have of our customers, and we can find out, how many are actually eating bacon for breakfast? How many people are using the gym in the basement? How many are using the swimming pool? How many are using the restaurant on the top floor? And who are they? Are they young people, old people, women, men? Which countries do they come from? Do they have lots of money? Did they spend time in the VIP lounge? Or did they just have, the single bedroom, single person room, and so on? And when we do that kind of work, which is, of course, very interesting to us, we are doing profiling. We're trying to find out who you are. And we are, with GDPR, we are no longer allowed to do profiling without asking you for your consent. Is it okay for us? Now, we had an incident, a small incident, back in June, where, because in Oslo we have a hotel called The Thief, which is, we call it the Rockstar Hotel. When we have VIP guests like pop and pop and rock stars coming to Oslo, they usually stay at our hotel, The Thief. And somebody there, they went online on Google because there was somebody new coming to our hotel that had never been there before. And we went on Google and Googled them to find out, do they want some beer or champagne in the room? Do they want some red roses in the room? Do they want a Lamborghini parked outside so they can go driving around in Oslo? You don't know. So we Google it. And when we Google it, we also made a note of, their interests on paper. And that is illegal. Because we didn't ask them up front, is it okay if we do that? So what we should have done is, we should have called you and said, hey, you come to visit us, you're the most famous rock star of Ukraine, right? Yep, okay, yeah, hey. So we need to call you and do you have any preference for your room? We know you're going to trash the entire room with the after party, but do you want some champagne or red roses or black roses or whatever in your room? And is it okay that if we make a note about that before you arrive? But just to go on Google and search for it, that is essentially illegal. Now you see that, being a hotel where we want to provide the best possible services for you suddenly becomes a little bit more difficult. And last but not least, there's also the right to data portability from one service provider to another. Essentially, what this is saying that if you come to our hotel and stay with us, sorry, I have to put this the other way around. So if you used to stay with another hotel chain in Norway, which obviously isn't as good as ours, and you are not happy with them, you can go to them and say, all the information you have stored about me, I want the black roses, in my room, I'm telling you that you can take all that information from that other hotel chain and you want to transfer that information to me. Now, I'm pretty sure that other hotel chain, they're not going to be too happy when they are being told that they have to take parts of the customer database and send that information to me, or the other way around. But this is also, in a way, one of the rights that you are getting with GDPR. It's easier to think of, health records. You use a hospital, they have a file about whatever kind of diseases or problems you have, and you can say that, no, I'm not going to use you anymore, I'm going to use another hospital, and I want you to transfer all the information you have about me and my health status to the other hospital instead. Now, that was maybe a little bit boring. This is the very important stuff about GDPR. This is what you have to tell your bosses, your managers. This is what you have to tell the owners of the company here in Ukraine. If you are not compliant with the GDPR, or if you get hacked and you have a data leakage about people in the EU, you can receive a fine of a maximum of 20 million euros, or 4% of the global annual turnover of your company. And to us, 13,000 employees, 190 hotels, with the revenue we have, the maximum penalty we can receive for one single data breach will be 28 million euros. So if your manager doesn't understand anything about privacy, I can guarantee you they do understand this. And for you, as a business opportunity, this is what you should tell your customers in Europe as well. Because the problem now in Europe, in Norway where I live, is that a lot of companies, I would say 50%, 60% of all the companies in Europe, they still don't understand this. They don't understand the importance of GDPR, the need for privacy, for encryption, for good access controls, two-factor authentication, two-step verification, using HTTPS for your application for iOS and Android. They don't understand the importance of this. This is very easy to explain. If you have a data leak, 20 million euros to be paid to the government. Now, who wants to pay money to the government? Nobody. So they are using the phrase privacy by design in GDPR. This is where we get a little bit more explicit about application development and testing. I have a single slide on testing as well. But by privacy by design, they mean your right to privacy, built-in privacy, privacy by default, transparency, executive management support. Point here is something as simple as when you signed up for QA Fest, what kind of information did you have to provide in order to participate here? Did you have to provide your name? Yes. Did you have to provide your email address? Did you have to provide your home address? Work address? Company name? How did you pay? By credit card or by bank transfer, or do they send an invoice for you? Okay, yeah. Many different ways to pay. Now, GDPR says that you are only allowed to collect the information needed to provide a certain service. So what do I need to provide you with a good night's sleep and breakfast at a hotel in Norway? Well, I need to get paid. That's, that's number one, really, to us. As long as you pay, you can get anything. But we are asking for your email address because we want to send you an invoice, or we will send you a confirmation of your booking with us. And we also ask for your phone number, and the reasoning for that is that in case something happens, just before you arrive, we can call you and say, hey, there's a small problem with your room, but we will give you the VIP suite. I mean, you're a rock star anyway, right? Yes? So we will do it like that. And then the question again is, we do this because we want to provide a good service. But are we actually allowed to, can we justify the collection of your email address and your phone number? Can we justify that because we want to provide a good service? Well, yes, we think we can. But when I asked for your email address, that was to be able to send you the invoice or to send you a confirmation of your booking. But if I then use that email address to put you on a mailing list to send you new offers every month, then I'm stepping over the line because I didn't ask permission to do that. So when you do software testing, you have to look at all these little things in the software. What kind of information do they collect? How do they intend to use it? And very importantly, are they trying to use the data for something that they haven't asked specifically for permission to do? And you also need to be transparent, like preferably companies and organizations that have apps or online websites and so on. They need to be transparent and tell you, why do we collect this information? Who is going to process the data about you? Like, is it our receptionists? Will it be the housemates? Or are we giving all the information about you to a third-party marketing company that can do whatever they want with the data? And we have to be transparent about that. What are we going to use the data for? And of course, I mean, this is, this goes without saying, but executive management at a company, they need to understand and support this. When I started back in August working for Nordic Choice Hotels, I went to the sales department and said, look, here's the thing. We have a customer database with millions and millions of users registered that have stayed with us at some point in time. And in an absolute worst case scenario, May 25th next year, if we cannot prove when did all these people sign up for email newsletters, we have to delete the customer database. And they were like, whoa, did you just say that? Did you? Seriously? You just started like 3 days ago and you're telling us that we might have to delete our customer database? You know, dude, that's going to be like your shortest career ever in a company. And I think, well, I hope we don't have to do that. But something as simple as when people sign up for a service on a website or in an application, you have to log the date and point in time, maybe also the IP address or geolocation of the user, when they said, yes, I do agree to the terms and conditions. Don't just register that they clicked, you know, yes, I accept the terms and conditions. You should also log the time and date as a minimum. Very simple things, but incredibly easy to forget. And where I work, we have employees from more than 160 different countries around the world. Some of our employees, they only work part-time. During the weekends, they work night shifts only, and they don't speak Norwegian. They don't speak English. They speak all kinds of other languages. And one of my tasks is to make sure that we do efficient security training for all staff. Now, how do we do that? I can't go around to 190 hotels, you know, in the middle of the night and say, hey, we're going to do some security training now. You know, sit down, relax, have a cup of coffee, and I'll do a few quick slides about GDPR for you. I mean, they have work to do. But I have to make sure that our employees do understand the need for privacy. Here's an example, very simple example. Somebody calls us. Let's say it's a woman who calls us. That woman calls the reception. And she will ask the question, did my husband check into the hotel already? What are we going to tell her? Did my husband just check into his room? We can't answer that. That's personal information. Yeah? And I don't know how this works in Ukraine. But in other countries, I've heard rumors that some people may, you know, stay in a hotel room with somebody else, so to speak. Does that happen in Ukraine ever? No? No. Good country. Good. So it's not like, you know, it's not like calling the hospital and asking about somebody's health records, but it can be just as bad. And we don't want to be held liable for, you know, any kind of problems this situation may cause. But it's so easy, you know, a slip of the tongue, and you could have leaked information that is supposed to be secret. And there are internal requirements. You know, security policy internally is something that our employees have to be compliant with. The external requirements, there are governance, you know, regulatory requirements like GDPR as an example. But there are also stuff like, you know, if we have application developers, website developers, database developers, and so on, we also need to make sure that we provide training for methodologies for development, as an example. And we also need to be able to document that which one of our employees have done the GDPR training. When did they do it? On which days? How often? If we have application developers, we also need to be able to document when did they receive training last time. So one of the changes that we are actually doing today while working that is we have an e-learning portal that we are now taking away. We're not going to use it anymore. Because we saw that it was difficult to actually prove who have received training and when did they do it. So we are scrapping that system, purchasing a new system where we have better log management facilities in order to prove that, yes, all employees have now received official training. And there are also training related to the use of tool standards and best practices, like Microsoft software development lifecycle as an example, Microsoft SDL, and the use of OWASP. Now, I have made my slides based on official documentation from the Data Privacy Commissioner in Norway. They have made a guideline about privacy by design, privacy by default. So it's like you don't have to do exactly what this slide says. But if you do, it's much easier for you to say, yes, we are GDPR compliant. And also in the requirements, if you are going to do any work for me, I'm asking you to, make me a website or anything else, I will ask you and give you quite a few requirements. I want you to prove to me in Ukraine that, yes, your employees have received information about GDPR and that they understand the basic human rights for privacy. Do you know the difference between personal information and sensitive personal information? More or less? More or less, okay. We will go for more then. Yeah. So personal information is any kind of information that can be traced back to you. A single IP address, nothing else, accessed our website on September 22nd at 10:34. That's it. You have that in your log file. The thing is that that IP address can, in some cases, be traced directly back to my house in Norway, but there only lives one person, that's me, and suddenly that IP address, date and time, is a piece of personal information. It can be that little. And suddenly, you need to be GDPR compliant because you log that piece of information. And I can ask, did you ask permission to log that information about me? Sensitive personal information has a strict definition. Sensitive personal information about a person will be health records, political opinion or membership in a political party or workers' union, anything that has to do with criminal activity, like have you ever been convicted for a crime, have you been to prison and so on. Sexuality, what are your sexual preferences, boys, girls, camels, I don't know. And also religious views, who do you believe in? Trump or Putin? I don't know. I'm skeptical to both, honestly. Those are sensitive information about people. Now, we are a hotel chain again. Do I need to collect information that could be sensitive about people? Yes? Why? That is not sensitive. That's just personal information. Health issues? If you are allergic, yeah, serving you nuts if you have extreme nut allergy is kind of not a good idea. Yeah. And if you tell me that, I will still have to ask you, is it okay if I store that in your profile, never serve anything with nuts in for you? Well, it's your choice, but I have to ask before I store it. I can ask you, the thing is, GDPR and all privacy laws is applicable to information that is collected, transmitted, and stored. So if I ask you for breakfast, would you like me to bring you a big bowl of nuts? And you say, no, I can't do that because I'm allergic. I don't make a record of, I don't make a note on paper that you are allergic to this. And then I've done nothing wrong. But if I choose to write down, you have nut allergy, then I would actually have to ask your permission first. Because it's a health issue, which is covered by the laws on sensitive information. I will also make requirements for you when you're going to develop anything for me related to user and ownership of information, processing, collection, storing, processing, display, communication, deletion of information. I will ask you, how do you do encryption of data? Because if you have any sensitive personal information about people, that information should be protected by encryption and preferably two-factor authentication. If your clients, if they ask you to create an app that will collect sensitive personal information, and they don't do any data encryption inside the app, if they don't do any two-factor authentication, they are doing it wrong. And the funny thing about GDPR is you can be held liable in Ukraine because you developed an app collecting sensitive personal information without using encryption, without using two-factor authentication. You can be held liable, not only the company in the EU who asked you to develop that app. You can be held liable as well. There's also a lot of stuff about design, I'm just repeating myself here. Limit the amount of information collected to whatever you need. If you can store data about people in different databases and hide, as good as possible how the different data sets are connected, like in one database you will have my name, my home address, my phone number, and some sort of unique identifier. That's database number one. And in another database, which is encrypted and you use two-factor authentication for access, you also have the same unique identifier, and in there you can write that Per has extreme nut allergy, as an example, instead of putting all the information inside one single database. Split the data across several databases. And as software testers, as quality assurance engineers, you need to look into how is data being separated across different systems, different databases, different applications. And for coding, also requirements related to, I don't want you to create something that has never been done before. I want you to use tools, techniques, processes, and so on that are, considered to be best practices. I want you to do source code reviews, as an example. This could be a potential gold mine for you people. You can offer people and companies in the EU, yes, we can do source code audits for you as part of our software testing. And for testing itself, of course, you need to do documented checklists. You can provide security testing in the form of vulnerability scans. You can do dynamic testing, which is about, I do log on as user 1, and then I change the URL field to user 2 and see what happens. Do you get access? Do you not get access? Look for security errors. What do the error messages mean? Will normal people understand the error messages? Is suddenly becoming more important. Fuzzing, penetration testing, and threat model analysis. Given the kind of data we have collected and the way you access the data online, what kind of threat does that pose to the user and to us as a hotel chain, as an example? And before you release everything into production, I also want you, because you have developed the app, the database, and the application for me, I'm also interested in, if something goes wrong, can you help me? If you say you can help me, show me the procedures in place to do incident handling. Can I call you Monday to Friday from 7 to 5 in the afternoon? Or can I call you any time of day? Can I call you during the weekend? Can I call you during national holidays for support? What kind of internal security training do you have? What kind of external incident handling do you have? What kind of governance reporting do you do to the Ukrainian government? What if the Ukrainian government asks you to hand over all the data you have stored about Per, who lives in Norway? Can the Ukrainian government ask you to do that? If they do, how would you do it? And so on. All these things are important to me because I need to protect my customers. And in the end, you also have, as soon as this has been put into production, Again, lots of stuff about how do you maintain the solution, how do you improve, how do you build the solution and add more modules, features, and functions, and so on. So I'm going to end this by repeating a story from Ashley Madison last year, because the Ashley Madison story is still to date the most extreme hack I have ever seen in terms of personal information. Just imagine that hackers get access not only to your name and phone number and address, they get access to nude pictures of yourself. I'm so old, I have no idea what they look like even, but I've heard that some people, they will actually do nude selfies and send them to their boyfriends and girlfriends. It's a bad idea, but that's just me. Now, when Ashley Madison happened, there was a Norwegian man who called me and said, I have an account with Ashley Madison, he said. And he said that he was sort of proud and happy to see that I wrote an article that went viral on the internet saying that everybody has a right to privacy. Even if you were using Ashley Madison, even if you stayed at one of our hotels with somebody else, nobody else has the right to find out that you did that. And I told him that I'm actually going to Kyiv in Ukraine to talk about the Ashley Madison case. And he sent me a text message that looked like this. I'm not going to waste any more of your time, but the potential of additional user damages due to the impact team, which were the hackers, being provoked by the slow legal process, etc., may keep the story in the media. Tell the audience, that's you, and others, and warn them about the psychological hell a little bit of rashness online can lead to. I am almost a completely broken man, and I don't know if I will ever be able to stand up again. And I had a life full of great qualities, not as whining, but as a matter of fact and a strong warning. Now, he told me that I haven't been cheating on my wife. I think I have been chatting with some women, but they responded very strangely. And we think that, well, they were not really women, they were bots made by the company running the service. And he said, I have never met anyone, but I'm married, I have kids, and now I cannot work anymore, I can't sleep anymore. And that was the last text message that he sent to me before he committed suicide. And he did that because he was afraid that personal information about himself, his sexual preferences, his pictures and so on, would suddenly become public knowledge for anyone in the world, searchable on the internet. And I can tell you right now that if you develop any kind of service for me, for my employer, I am going to make sure this never happens. Thank you.
Хотели поблагодарить докладчика за интереснейший рассказ, и, к сожалению, у нас осталось всего 5 минут для вопросов. Поэтому, пожалуйста.
So, questions about GDPR? And I will also tell you I'm doing the experts corner later today. I'm also doing a talk tomorrow, and I'm here for free, so anyone can ask me any questions at any time during the entire day and evening. I love to talk, so just approach me after my talk as well if you want to talk. Question?
Hi, my name is Nikita. We are passing through a GDPR compliance preparations now, and to me it looks like GDPR can be separated or differentiated in two ways. The first one is what government will want from your system, like security, reliability, and the other thing is what you will have to do for your user. So the question about the user, can you just write these terms and conditions and user agreement in such a way that user will simply reject all the possibilities, all the privileges, and you will make them agree that you won't do anything for them if they want to use your service. Will it work in such a case?
Well, I will try to give you a short reply to that. Number one, GDPR says that the terms and conditions, they need to be understandable to normal people. And the way we interpret that in Norway is that means you can no longer allow lawyers to write the terms and conditions, because then nobody understands the text. So that's number one. Second, yes, I can do a terms and conditions that says, by staying with us, we will collect your name and credit card and home address, phone number, email address, and so on, and we are going to use that to spam you for the rest of the life, no matter where you go hiding, and so on. But we have to say specifically what we are going to use the information for, and we are not allowed to change the terms and conditions and start using your data for any other purpose except what we initially said. So if I say we are going to use MailChimp to email you once every month, then I'm not allowed to start sending you emails from another service every week. That would be a violation. So you can't do a terms and conditions where you just say, anything we have about you, we can give to anyone and use it for any purpose. That is not legal.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
К сожалению, время закончилось. Time
Time's
is
out?
finished.
Okay.
Like,
I'll be outside.